So good morning, chaff and cheers. This is going to be a double video because it's going to be for lessons on Monday and Tuesday. So the 11th and the 12th, which is next Monday and next Tuesday. So the two learning objectives that we're going to be looking at is on Monday, you're going to be ordering fractions again from the smallest fraction to the largest fraction. The only difference this week is that the denominators, i.e. the numbers on the bottom, are all going to be different. Okay, so you're going to have to ask yourself, how are you going to do that? Which is why I've included a fraction rule, which will show you how one is broken up into halves, thirds, quarters, fifths. So that will be attached to your work on Monday and also on Tuesday, but I've displayed it here so you get to see how fractions can be split up, okay, and how you can compare fractions with different denominators in terms of which fraction is bigger than another one. On Tuesday, you're going to be using the crocodile teeth again, and you're going to be deciding which fraction is bigger or greater. Okay, and again, the denominator, i.e. the number on the bottom, will be different. So you have to work out which fraction is bigger. So let's go through this step by step. So to help you, you're going to be using a fraction rule. But today I want you to think about chocolate bars. Okay, so if you think that this number one, which is one whole piece, okay, is a chocolate bar, and then the next row down, which is two halves, which when you add them together they make one whole, is a chocolate bar, and this is thirds, so there are three equal amounts, but when you add a third and a third, you get to one. And again on quarters, if you've got a quarter, a quarter, a quarter and a quarter, okay, each one of those is worth 1/4, but when you add a quarter and a quarter and a quarter and a quarter, you get back to one. So think of it as one whole chocolate bar, and you are asked by your parents whether you would like a half a chocolate bar or a third of a chocolate bar. Now, which piece do you think is bigger? And I'll pause. Hopefully you're all looking at the fraction rule and thinking to yourself, actually, if I was offered half a chocolate bar or a third of a chocolate bar, I can clearly see that the half piece is bigger than the third piece. And again, if your parents asked you whether you would like a third of a chocolate bar or a quarter of a chocolate bar, using the fraction rule, we should all be shouting out, I would like a third, because that piece is bigger, i.e. the third is bigger than a quarter. Okay, and if we work down our fraction rule, a quarter is bigger than a fifth is actually bigger than a sixth, a sixth is bigger than an eighth, 1/8 is bigger than 1/10, and 1/10 is actually bigger than 1/12. So if you were given the option of having 1/12 of a chocolate bar, you'd get this tiny piece. If you were offered 1/2 of a chocolate bar, you'd get this chunk. Okay, so hopefully you can see as you go down the fraction rule, the pieces of chocolate that you will get are getting smaller. Okay, so if the numerator is 12/12ths, you're going to get a tiny piece. If the numerator is quarter or 4, you're going to get a fairly big piece. And if the numerator is a half or 2, you're going to get a fairly big piece. So that's something to bear in mind. Okay, so as I said, the fraction rule shows you half a bar, a third of a bar, a quarter of a bar, a fifth of a bar, 6, 7ths, 8ths, 10ths and 12ths. So you can use that when it comes to answering the questions. Okay, so again, the question would be, if you were to be offered either a quarter of a chocolate bar or a third, okay, hopefully you are all saying I would prefer a half. So therefore, if I write this out as greater than, a half is greater than 1/3, i.e. I would much prefer a half a chocolate bar than a third of a chocolate bar. Okay, and just to show you that visually as well, okay, I'm going to split my 3 chocolate bars into halves, thirds and sixths, and you can tell me which piece of chocolate you would prefer. Would you prefer a half? Would you prefer a third? Or would you prefer a sixth? So which piece of chocolate would you like? So chocolate bar in half, okay, that's half, okay, so this is 1/2 and this is 1/2. Look at the size of the piece of chocolate you would get. If I was to divide it into thirds, I've already pre-marked it for myself, okay, this is the value of 1/3, that size, and hopefully you're already seeing half a chocolate bar is a lot bigger than 1/3 of a chocolate bar. And if I was to put it into sixths, so if I was to split that chocolate bar into sixths, look how small each piece is. So the question you need to ask yourself, would you prefer half a chocolate bar, a third of a chocolate bar, or a sixth of a chocolate bar? Okay, so now you can see them visually. That's exactly what it looks like on the fraction wall, but look at the difference in sizes. A half is a lot bigger than a third, and a third is a lot bigger than a sixth. If you can actually see, 2/6 is exactly the same as 1/3. Okay, so 1/3, you'd get 2/16 to 1/3. Okay, so the question now is going to ask you in your tomorrow, your questions, is now order them, okay, in terms of size from the smallest piece to the largest piece. And hopefully you'll all be shouting out that actually, Mr. Evans, the smallest piece is 1/6, this piece here. The next smallest piece is 1/3, so I can write 1/3. And the largest piece is 1/2, okay? And that's what you're going to be doing on Monday, okay? But you will be given fractions of an eighth, a quarter, and a fifth for question 1. For question 2, you'll be looking at halves, sixths, and quarters, okay? So that will be question 2. And question 3, I think you're looking at thirds, fifths, and quarters, okay? Which is why I've given you the fraction wall on your assignment so that you can clearly look at how big each piece is. How big is an eighth, how big is a quarter, and how big is a fifth. So you must use your fraction wall, okay? So Tuesday is exactly the same, but this time you will be using your crocodile, okay? You'll be using those symbols in order to show which fraction is bigger than another fraction. Okay, so if we again use our fraction wall above, okay, which fraction is greater? Is it a half or a third? You can quite clearly see that a half is greater, and I use my symbol, and I can even draw my crocodile mouse, than 1/3, okay? Or, let's look at it again, let's compare thirds and sixths, okay? Which one of those fractions is bigger? I.e., which piece of chocolate would you like, okay? Would you like a 1/3? Or would you like 1/6? Hopefully you're all shouting out, I would prefer 1/3, Mr. Evans. And you can clearly see that 1/3 is a lot bigger than 1/6. Okay, so 1/3 is bigger than 1/6. And you'll be given a series of these kind of questions, and you have to put in the correct symbol, okay? Which is greater, using the idea that the crocodile always eats the bigger fraction, okay? So, have a go at those. So this will be Monday and Tuesday lessons, and I will post this video up for both days, okay? But I will also give you your fraction wall. Just think about chocolate bars and pieces of chocolate bars. Would you prefer a third? Would you prefer a half? Or would you prefer a sixth? Okay? That's what you kind of got to think in your heads. That piece of chocolate can be broken up into halves, thirds, quarters, fifths, sixths, eighths. Which one is bigger? Which one would you prefer? Best of luck with that.